Every shocking trade in the NFL explained. Bryce Young, 2023 draft. In March 2023, the Carolina Panthers made a bold move, one that would reshape two franchises. Sitting at the 9th pick in the draft, Carolina's leadership believed they needed to climb all the way to number 1 to secure the quarterback of the future. The Chicago Bears, already committed to Justin Fields, were open for business. The deal was massive. Carolina sent Chicago the number 9 overall pick in 2023, a second-rounder in 2023, their 2024 first-round pick, their 2025 second-round pick, and their star wide receiver, DJ Moore. In return, they acquired the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. With that pick, Carolina selected Bryce Young, the 2023 Heisman-winning quarterback from Alabama. Undersized, but lauded for his poise, accuracy, and leadership, Young was expected to be the franchise quarterback Carolina was so desperately seeking. Chicago, meanwhile, drafted a starting tackle, cornerback, punter, and wide receiver with the picks they obtained. But most importantly, came away with the top prize in the following year's draft, Caleb Williams, the 2024 Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from USC, considered by all to be the next generational talent at the position. Trey Lance, 2021 draft. In March 2021, the San Francisco 49ers went all in chasing their quarterback of the future. The price was enormous. San Francisco sent Miami their 2021 first-round pick, number 12 overall, plus their first-round picks in 2022 and 2023, along with the 2022 third-round compensatory pick. With the number 3 selection, the 49ers chose Trey Lance, the athletic, strong-armed quarterback out of North Dakota State. The hope was that Lance's rare tools could make him the next superstar in Shanahan's system. Miami, meanwhile, turned the windfall into a foundation. They flipped the 2021 number 12 pick in another trade with the Eagles, moving back up to number 6 to take wide receiver Jalen Waddle, now one of the most explosive playmakers in the NFL. Then they used the 2022 first-rounder to trade for Tyreek Hill, and finally, the 2023 first-rounder was moved in part of the package for star pass rusher Bradley Chubb. The trade enabled the Dolphins to arm Tua Tagovailoa with 2 of the fastest receivers in the league and put a cornerstone piece on their defensive line. For San Francisco, the gamble backfired. Lance started just 4 games in 2 seasons, hampered by injuries and inconsistency, before being traded to Dallas in 2023 for a 4th-round pick. Ryan Leaf, 1998 draft. In the spring of 1998, the San Diego Chargers found themselves desperate for a franchise quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts held the number 1 pick and were zeroing in on Peyton Manning. If they wanted to draft the other highly touted quarterback in the draft class, they would have to move up to the number 2 pick. The Chargers struck a deal with Arizona to jump from number 3 to number 2 overall, but the price was steep. San Diego sent the Cardinals their first-round pick in number 3 and their second-round pick, a first-round pick in 1999, plus 2 players, versatile running back Eric Metcalf and linebacker Patrick Sapp. With the number 2 pick, San Diego selected Leaf, a cannon-armed quarterback from Washington State with all-pro expectations. But almost immediately, the move unraveled. Leaf clashed with teammates and coaches, struggled with maturity, and crumbled under the pressure of replacing Drew Brees. On the field, the results were disastrous. In 3 seasons with the Chargers, he started just 18 games, won only 4, threw 14 touchdowns against 36 interceptions, and posted a passer rating under 50. For Arizona, the trade was a franchise-altering haul. They used the 1999 first-rounder on wide receiver David Boston, who became a Pro Bowler. Metcalf gave them solid production, and the pile of picks helped the team build depth. In hindsight, the deal became the textbook cautionary tale of gambling on potential. The Colts landed Peyton Manning in number 1 and built a dynasty. The Chargers mortgaged their future on Leaf and endured years of irrelevance. The Ryan Leaf trade remains one of the worst moves in NFL history. Ricky Williams, 1999 draft. In 1999, New Orleans Saints head coach Mike Ditka was a man obsessed. He believed one player could transform his franchise, Ricky Williams, the record-setting running back from Texas. To get him, Ditka pulled off one of the most audacious trades in NFL history. The Saints owned the number 12 pick in the draft. They wanted to move up to number 5, where Washington was willing to deal. The price? Every draft pick New Orleans had in 1999. All of them. The Saints shipped away their 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks that year, plus their 1st and 3rd round picks in 2000. In exchange, they acquired the number 5 pick and selected Williams. Ditka doubled down on the spectacle. He and Williams posed for ESPN the magazine, dressed as a bride and groom, Ditka with a cigar in his mouth, declaring his love for his new star. But the honeymoon ended quickly. Williams battled injuries and inconsistency in New Orleans, rushing for just over 2,600 yards in 3 seasons. Good production, but nowhere near the expectation for a franchise-altering player. Washington was able to secure 2 future Pro Bowlers and longtime starters in LeVar Arrington and Chris Samuels, but largely squandered the opportunity gifted to them by New Orleans. Ditka was fired by the end of the 1999 season, and the trade goes down as one of the most reckless in league history. Steve Young, April 1987. By 1985, Steve Young was one of the hottest prospects in football. After starting at BYU, he signed a then-record contract with the USFL's Los Angeles Express. When the league folded, his rights passed to the NFL's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who made him their starter. But the Buccaneers were a disaster. In 2 seasons with Young under center, Tampa Bay won just 3 games. The offensive line was porous, the roster thin, and Young's confidence was shaken. The team held the number 1 pick in the 1987 draft and had its eyes on Vinny Testaverde, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. The 49ers struck quickly, sending a 2nd-round pick in 1987 and a 4th-round pick in 1988 to Tampa Bay in exchange for Young. Not because they needed him, they already had the greatest quarterback of the time, Joe Montana, at the helm, but as the future of the franchise once Montana moved on. The Buccaneers quickly regretted their decision. Testaverde struggled, Tampa remained stuck in mediocrity, and the draft picks netted nothing of significance. Young bided his time, sitting 4 years behind Montana, watching and learning from one of the best to ever play, and when his number was finally called in 1991, he quickly blossomed into one of the greatest dual-threat quarterbacks ever. He was a 2-time NFL MVP, Super Bowl champion, and Super Bowl MVP, and eventually, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Brett Favre, February 1992. In the 1991 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons used a 2nd-round pick on a gunslinging quarterback from Southern Miss named Brett Favre. He had a rocket arm and a fearless style, but the Falcons' coaching staff never trusted him. Head coach Jerry Glanville famously quipped it would take a plane crash for Favre to play, and in his rookie season, he attempted just 4 passes, 2 of them intercepted. Meanwhile, in Green Bay, new general manager Ron Wolf saw something different. Wolf loved Favre during the draft process, and when Atlanta soured on the young quarterback, he seized the opportunity. In February 1992, the Packers sent their 1992 first-round pick, number 19 overall, to Atlanta in exchange for Favre. At the time, it hardly made headlines. Atlanta believed they had moved on from a reckless project, while Green Bay was gambling a premium pick on a backup with no resume. That gamble transformed the Packers franchise. In his first start in 1992, Favre led a dramatic comeback against the Bengals, launching what became a legendary career. Over the next 16 seasons in Green Bay, he became the ultimate Iron Man. 3 consecutive MVP awards, 1995 to 1997, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl title, and a then-record 297 consecutive starts at quarterback. He retired as the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards, touchdowns, and wins. For Atlanta, the trade was a footnote. They used the pick to select running back Tony Smith, who rushed for just 329 yards in his brief career. While the Falcons floundered, Favre turned Green Bay into a perennial contender and re-energized one of the NFL's most storied franchises. Russell Wilson, March 2022. The Denver Broncos, desperate to finally replace Peyton Manning after having a dozen different starting quarterbacks in the previous 7 years, pulled off a blockbuster trade in the spring of 2022 with the Seattle Seahawks, trading for their 10-year starter, Russell Wilson. Denver sent a package of picks and players for Wilson that included 2 first-round picks, 2022-2023, 2 second-round picks, 2022-2023, a 2022 fifth-round pick, plus 3 players. Quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive lineman Shelby Harris. In return, the Broncos received Wilson, plus a 2022 fourth-round pick. The Broncos immediately signed Wilson to a 5-year, $245 million deal, with over $160 million guaranteed. Seattle used the draft picks wisely and obtained several future foundational pieces: Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, Devin Witherspoon, and Derek Hall. After 2 years of the Russell Wilson experiment, Denver released the former Pro Bowl quarterback, incurring an $85 million dead cap hit just to get rid of him. This trade remarkably wasn't the worst move made in 2022, and would probably receive more negative publicity in places outside Denver had the following trade not occurred during the same offseason. Deshaun Watson, March 2022. After sitting out the entire 2021 season due to a contract dispute, trade demands, and several sexual misconduct lawsuits filed against him, the Houston Texans had enough of their all-pro quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Once word spread that he was available, teams lined up to trade for him, ignoring the character issues for a chance at an elite signal caller to lead their franchise. The Cleveland Browns ended up giving Houston the best offer, including a staggering amount of draft picks, including 3 first-rounders and a 3rd and 4th round pick. In return, they received Watson and a 6th round pick. But the insanity didn't stop there, as the Browns gave Watson a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract, the richest guaranteed deal in league history, and resetting the quarterback salary market across the league. His tenure in Cleveland started with an 11-game suspension handed down by the NFL due to the sexual misconduct allegations. Since then, he has endured several injuries, including tearing his Achilles after a 1-6 start to the 2024 season. The Texans used the picks wisely to bolster their defense and have 2 of the league's most promising young talents in Derek Stingley Jr. and Will Anderson Jr. Cleveland Browns co-owner Jimmy Haslam called the deal a big swing and miss in March of 2025. Herschel Walker, October 1989. The Herschel Walker trade between the Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings is widely considered the most lopsided trade in NFL history. It rebuilt the Dallas dynasty and crippled the Vikings' chances at succeeding in the short term. The details of the deal were that Dallas received 5 players with conditional draft picks assigned to them, plus 3 additional draft picks for Walker and 4 low-round draft picks. The conditional draft picks were granted if any of the 5 players were cut or didn't make the team, and that was exactly what Jimmy Johnson's plan was from the beginning. Dallas was able to draft future Hall of Fame running back Emmitt Smith, plus 3 defensive stalwarts in Russell Maryland, Darren Woodson, and Kevin Smith with the picks. Over the next 4 years, they helped Dallas win 3 Super Bowl titles and cementing their dynasty status. Walker's time in Minnesota was less heralded. In part of 3 seasons, he never regained his former All-Pro form and scored just 20 touchdowns. He was no longer on the team after the 1991 season. Chicago Tigers, 1920. This was not a trade in the sense that players or draft picks were swapped, but the potential financial impact far outweighs anything else on this list. In the league's inaugural season, there were 2 teams representing the city of Chicago, the Decatur Staleys and the Chicago Tigers. The Staleys were coached by George Halas, a man already obsessed with football and the future of the sport. At the time, the league was tiny, fragile, and the thought of 2 teams being supported by the same city felt unsustainable. Legend has it that Halas proposed a wager, a winner-takes-all bet, not just for bragging rights, but to represent the city of Chicago going forward. The losing team would have to disband. On November 7, 1920, the 2 Chicago teams faced off, and Halas' team prevailed 6-0. Keeping their end of the bet, the Tigers did disband after the season, and were never heard from in professional football again. The Staleys would soon shed their company name and become the Chicago Bears in 1921, a franchise that grew from the humble wager into one of the NFL's crown jewels, now valued at over $8 billion. That single November afternoon did more than decide a game. It determined which team would carry Chicago's banner into football's future. For one owner, it meant fading into obscurity as his team vanished. For George Halas, it was the first step in building a legacy that would shape the league for the next 100 years.